Good evening, everyone. Yesterday we made a video where we talked about how to beat a sort of generic low rank Paul in an online environment. That video turned out to be very well received, and I had a lot of requests to just keep on making more right away. So I thought we'd make one right now. I want to talk about Hwoarang in this video because I think he's another character that falls into that sort of category of a character who's grinding and doing the same very exploitative tools a lot in the low ranks, and becomes extremely frustrating to deal with if you don't know like the specific ways you need to maneuver around his sort of generic toolkit. And I just want to re-emphasize something that I said in that first video. Hwoarang, much like Paul, is a very good character in this game, and Hwoarang is actually at the same time kind of advanced and used by a lot of players at a high level to achieve amazing results. So this is not like a knock on the character. I just want to talk about how you might find ways of dealing with very generic low rank Hwoarangs who are frustrating you right now, and then your experience is going to be like completely different in terms of like just getting past them and getting past those ranks where you're fighting against these guys all the time, because they tend to do basically the same thing over and over. Alright, so enough with the intro. Let's start talking about some moves. I think the most important place to start is we need to talk about Hwoarang's Firecracker. The input for Firecracker is down 4-4. It looks like this, and the reason I want to start by talking about this move is this is usually the first move you encounter, because it's an extremely common round opener for lowish level Hwoarangs. You see it a lot at the beginning of the round for a couple of good reasons. If you look at the first hit here, you can see that Hwoarang dips down, meaning that this move has high crush properties, and there's a lot of highs at the start of the round. A lot of people like to open rounds with jabs. Maybe they try and start, trying to get a magic 4 right away, and so you can go under those highs with Firecracker and launch your opponent. The other reason that this move is really powerful at the beginning of the round is, well, first of all, let's just explain something really important about the move. If I set my opponent to second action all guard here, you can see that the second hit of this move is actually not guaranteed. This is not a natural combo, meaning that if the first part of the move just hits normally, they're not going to get the launch. But if I key charge here quickly, so that now all of my moves register as counter hits, that's why I'm doing that, by the way. Okay, I ran out, so let's do it again. You can see that the move does launch even though my opponent is still set to second command all guard, meaning that this is a natural counter hit combo, and so it is essentially a counter hit tool, meaning that what Hwoarang is trying to do a lot of the time at the beginning of the round when he's trying to hit you with this move is actually counter hit something. So it's very dangerous to unnecessarily press a lot of buttons and do a lot of attacks at the very beginning of the round against Hwoarang for this reason. And so my main tip here is like, don't do something like a 1-2, because he's gonna like go under the 1, counter hit the 2, and now you're gonna get launched for a massive amount of damage, and you've statistically almost already lost the round, right? Very dangerous. So the main thing is don't get counter hit by the move, and if you can just achieve that, then all of a sudden this option is more or less neutralized. But there are other ways of dealing with it, sort of like a big boy option, like the proper way of dealing with this move that is going to yield you a lot of damage. So if we record my opponent doing a Firecracker here quickly. Oh, I forgot to hit record. Alright, there we go. That should work. Alright, as you can see here, this is just on normal hit. When the low hits me normally, I have more than enough time to duck under the second part of the move, which is a high, meaning that if you can train yourself to react visually to the first part of this move, you can duck before the impact of the second move, and you can get a while standing punish, which is the most proper or rewarding way of dealing with this move. But if you don't want to like spend time learning to visually react to this, or you find it difficult or whatever, like the main thing is just if you just let him do it here. If you just block, that's the worst thing that's going to happen to you. You're going to eat 7 damage, and then you're going to block the high, and you're fine. Just don't get counter hit. That's the main thing. The last thing I should mention about Firecracker before we move on is that the second part of this move, the high, that part, is safe. So If you just get hit by the first hit and block the second one, don't attempt a block punish, because what's going to happen is the move has a lot of pushback, so you might whiff and then you can get whiff punished, which is very dangerous. But even if you have a long range option, the move is safe. I think it lands Hwoarang at something like -8 if I'm not remembering incorrectly, meaning that you cannot block punish the move. So it's better to just block the second hit, block the second hit and then just do a backdash out and look for an opening or whatever. But don't get too trigger happy against the move, is all I'm trying to say. Alright, the next thing we need to talk about is, well, I should mention before we talk about the moves I want to talk about is, Hwoarang has a lot of stances. He's a stance heavy character. And the next two moves that I want to talk about, that are like the big two for Hwoarang, in the same way like Demolition Man and Death Fist are for Paul, is that a very unique thing about them is one of them comes out of one of these stances and the other one comes out of the other stance. And so if you didn't know about these two stances with Hwoarang, and you can learn to sort of distinguish them visually, then you can know which one of these options he has access to and which one he cannot use, and that's going to make establishing reads a lot easier. So this is Hwoarang's neutral stance. It's where he usually starts, or where he always starts, I should say, at the beginning of the round. He has his left leg closest to his opponent, so this is referred to as left foot forward or left leg forward a lot. And then he has this other stance called right leg forward or right foot forward, which is like his other stance. And a lot of his moves transition in between these stances, but he can also manually change by pressing 3+4. So the first move I want to talk about is a move that comes out of his left leg forward stance, his normal stance at the beginning of the round. This is like one of the most commonly used moves by Hwoarangs in the entire world. You see it all the time. It's almost comical how often this move comes out. It becomes very easy to predict for that reason. The input is 444 and it looks like this. This is the move. Let's actually look up the name of the move just for clarity. Okay, here we go. Is it called the Beastkeeper? The Peacekeeper. Okay, so it's called Peacekeeper. That would actually be pretty cool if it was called the Beekeeper, maybe because it stings you. I don't know. But apparently it's called Peacekeeper. The input is 444. It comes out of left leg forward, and it is a move that has some really amazing properties. First of all, you can see that the range is massive. It is mid. It is safe, and it is knockdown. Safe on block, I think it lands Hwoarang somewhere. According to RB Norway, I think they write it as like -4 to -6. Maybe that's a range thing. But it is in any case a completely safe move. And extremely common. This is basically what all Hwoarangs online and the low ranks use to open up offense or to just close the distance whenever they feel like it. It is also obviously a high damage combo tool. But if you can predict this move, which should become quite easy just because of how extremely common the move is, you can deal with it by doing a simple sidestep or by sidewalking. It is possible to react to like the initial sort of dash forward because it comes out of 4-4 to the move, and do a sidestep to evade the move. If that's a little bit difficult to do, like like speed wise, then you can actually, if you're just predicting the move, start walking sideways like way ahead of time. The move has like no built-in tracking whatsoever, so if I like start walking at the same time Hwoarang does the move, I'm going to be all the way like around to his back by the time he reaches me. I guess we could just show that quickly once as well. Alright, so that was just like a quick sidestep left. I'm pretty sure you can just do right as well. Should work. Right, yeah. But if I'm like just like sidewalking a lot here, and he does one of these moves, I mean, he's never gonna hit me because of like the tracking properties of the move are not good at all. The hitbox is kind of wide, so when you're very close to Hwoarang and you're trying to like sidestep a very clutch, you can get hit by it at the side. But if you're just doing a lot of lateral movement, you're moving sideways a lot when you're in a spaced out position against Hwoarang, which I think is a good idea, something that I think you should be doing a lot. Then this move becomes a lot easier to deal with. Okay, so can I not restart my position? Okay, there we go. Sorry. Okay, so that's the first move. It is safe. It comes out of left leg forward. As you can see, if I'm in left leg forward right now and I do Peacekeeper, I end up in right foot forward or right leg forward. From right leg forward, the other move that I really want to talk about comes out, and it is like one of the most ridiculous moves in the history of the game in terms of the properties that it has. It's called the rolling right kick. The command for it is right leg forward 3 a tilde 4, and it looks like this. This is a homing power crush launching spin move that also has plus frames on block. So basically it has like all the properties of like any move in the game. It has all the properties, but the main thing, the most important thing to know about this move is that it is a high, and it is a very duckable high. The recovery of the move is actually very fast, and so I find a lot when I predict this move that I'm ducking it properly, but when I'm applying my while standing punish, if I'm not very fast to get the while standing punish out, so I'm just gonna have a drink here. If I don't while standing punish it very quickly, sometimes I just get blocked because Hwoarang can recover kind of quickly after the move. But it is very duckable, and you can, you know, launch punish from while standing after you duck the move. And so an extremely common pattern, I mean, I talked about how common this move is, the Peacekeeper is people will do Peacekeeper and then they will go straight into a rolling right kick. And the reason for this is that the Peacekeeper, you know, if they get a hit with it, they get knocked down, they get damaged, they can run up and do Oki. But if it gets blocked, they're like I said, somewhere in the region of like -5, -6, meaning that your opponent, you know, is going to think that it's their turn to attack. They do something, and you just armor through it, and you launch them for massive damage with the rolling right kick. Let's have a look at the damage right here. See, that's just the first part of that combo, the first 2 hits, and that did 51 damage. This is disgusting damage. It's somewhat like the highest in the game, and even good players get hit by this move all the time. It is extremely, extremely good. But if you can predict it and you can duck it, it becomes a huge liability for the opponent, right? So whenever you've blocked a Peacekeeper, be very aware that, especially in lower ranks, that the rolling right kick might come straight after. It is an extremely common pattern, and if you can get a read on that, then you can duck. Also be aware, obviously, that the rolling right kick requires Hwoarang to be in this right leg forward stance. This is right leg forward, right? Yeah, right leg forward stance. Sorry. I was like, I forgot the difference between left and right for a second there. Yeah, it only comes out of this stance and it does massive damage. You gotta duck it, is basically what I'm trying to say. And be extremely careful after you block Peacekeeper about pressing buttons. If you're gonna press any kind of button, maybe try and do like a high crush move that is pretty fast or something. Because you do not want to do a high that can be armored through by the rolling right kick, because when you get hit by this move, I mean, the round is pretty much over because of the massive amounts of damage it does. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is another extremely common gap closer that Hwoarang uses, and you see it all the time. It sort of works in a little bit of a tandem or a dichotomy with the Peacekeeper, and it's Hwoarang's running 3. Running 3 is like his version of a slash kick almost, I guess. It's a very common gap closer with him. It is a mid, and it gives him plus frames on block, as you know, a lot of slash kicks do. And you see it very, very often, and so just like with the Peacekeeper, this is a move that just needs to be sidestepped, and it's not difficult to do at all. You know, he's in the air for quite a while. When he's running at you, or like he's charging at you, Hwoarang is going to do like either the Peacekeeper or the while running 3, the slash kick, this kick, most of the time. And so just doing quick side steps is going to like really improve your chances against this character. It's going to make a big difference. If you block the running 3, don't press a button because you are at minus frames. One thing, a very common setup is they will run and do this, and then they will do this move, which is like a counter hit launcher, right? And so if you don't know that you're at minus frames and you press a button, he counter hits you with that, and then you eat massive damage again. So just be aware that you are minus if you block this move, but the proper way to deal with it is to sidestep it. Okay, so now we've talked about all the really important stuff. If you can learn to just navigate through these few moves that I've talked about here, Hwoarang is going to be a lot easier to deal with. I'm going to mention one more move, and then I'm going to talk about just a general tip against Hwoarang that I want to give you. The last specific move I want to talk about is this. This is Air Raid. It's up for 444. And you see this at the end of the round when Hwoarang just desperately wants to collect some damage. You see it a lot because it can be sort of difficult-ish to deal with in terms of like blocking all 3 hits. You can see here when I'm doing it that it's a high, mid, low. So it's 3 hits, high, mid, low, and then it has extensions. But this like first part is really what you need to worry about. And so the way you block this, if we record my opponent doing it once here. Okay, I didn't do the whole thing. Let's try again. Alright. The way you block this move is you need to wait until you've heard the block sound of the second hit and you've confirmed that block, and then you press down back to block the low. If you do it too fast, if you press down back like that before the second hit gets blocked, you're going to get hit by the mid. And if you do it too late, like that, you're going to get hit by the low. And so if you just sit in practice mode against this move for a couple of minutes with it recorded like I'm doing right now, you're going to like quite quickly become very good at blocking this move. It is not that difficult at all. Obviously, when you're in like a clutch end of the round situation against Hwoarang, that's not always true. But when he's trying to like cheese you at the end of the round and collect like a last hit to kill you, if you can actually block this, he's gonna be surprised. It's gonna feel really good for you. Let's do the proper block one more time right there. Okay. So the last tip I just want to give you before we wrap this up is something that I've mentioned in a previous video, the video where I talked about how to beat spammers in general, and I talked about the importance of applying down jabs. This is a normal down jab with Hwoarang. I'm doing it by pressing down 1, but there are different inputs to perform a down jab depending on your character, but all characters have access to one. So this is my main tip for not when Hwoarang is doing specific big moves and hitting you with them, but when he's actually in your face and spamming like this and he's all up in your grill. Like, I don't know how to apply like spam with Hwoarang because I don't play him, but when you're playing against him and you feel like he's just attacking all the time and you can't get in, a down jab is usually your way out, and it's really important when playing against this character. If they're spamming, try and find a window where you can sneak in a down jab, because it's very fast, it crushes high, so if you go under a high it's going to work. If it's fast enough to interrupt something, it's going to work. And now you've created breathing room. Now you have an opening where you have the momentum in the game, and now you can establish your offense. The main option when you're being spammed down by a character like Hwoarang or Law is if you don't know all the frame data, you don't know when you have your openings to do something specific, when you can actually get in, and so it feels like if you're trying to press a button or stick something out, you're just constantly getting counter hit, and it's just making things worse for yourself. And that's exactly the situation against Hwoarang, where I think just trying to apply a single one jab in any kind of opening where you think you might be able to interrupt something is going to work wonders for you, and then you can do whatever move you want. But now at least you've created breathing room. You know that you have the momentum now. The next attack is yours to do, and if you're able to use a knockdown or a move that knocks your opponent away or something after that, or maybe something that gives you plus frames or whatever, you can retain the momentum and you can sort of try and lock Hwoarang out. The problem is that, when you're out here, he's trying to close the gap with Peacekeeper, he's trying to close the gap with his running 3, and then once he's in, especially when you block running 3 and he gets plus frames, you're just in the blender and he's just doing all these moves with built-in lows and built-in counter hits and firecrackers and armor moves like the rolling right kick, and you're just in his blender and playing his game entirely. And so if you can avoid to end up in those positions and you're just sidestepping him and maneuvering around him properly, that becomes a lot easier. But once you're in the blender, your way out is usually a strategically placed down jab. It's like my biggest tip against this character. Overall, it's really, really important, guys. Okay, so that's gonna wrap up, I think, my quick video on how to deal with generic Hwoarangs. Again, I need to reiterate, this is only going to work on like very generic people in the low ranks. If you get your ass kicked by a good Hwoarang player, then you just need to like learn more about the character, learn more about your character, and play real Tekken. But for now, thank you so much for watching. I hope this one came out a little bit clearer and a little bit better than the previous one I made. I hope the next one is going to be even better, so let me know who you want to see next. If I get no specific requests for one character, I'm thinking about maybe doing Chloe or Eddie next, and talking about, you know, crazy crush moves, and I want to talk about damage scaling when it comes to those characters, because I think that's actually the really most important part about dealing with them, is how they work in terms of damage scaling during their stances and stuff. But let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying Tekken, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much, and bye bye.